Christopher Charles Lloyd grew up in Queens, New York, surrounded by the gritty reality of street life. From a young age, he mastered the art of battle rap, gaining respect with his clever punchlines and raw lyricism. His talent caught the attention of 50 Cent, who brought him into the newly formed G Unit. The group shook the hip-hop scene, putting Queens on the map. Lloyd Banks quickly became known as the Punchline King, setting himself apart with wit and wordplay. Lloyd Banks, born Christopher Charles Lloyd, rose to prominence in the early 2000s as one of the standout members of the hip-hop collective G Unit. With 50 Cent at the helm, G Unit quickly became one of the most dominant forces in rap, and Banks's sharp wordplay and distinctive delivery helped him carve out his own lane within the group. The release of G Unit's debut album, Beg for Mercy, in 2003, catapulted the crew into superstardom. The project, filled with street anthems and radio-friendly hits, sold over 2 million copies in the US alone, instantly establishing the collective as a powerhouse in hip-hop. Building on that momentum, Lloyd Banks launched his solo career with his debut album, The Hunger for More, in 2004. The project showcased his ability to craft hard-hitting verses and catchy hooks, producing smash singles like On Fire and Karma. The album debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200 chart, selling over 400,000 copies in its first week, a testament to Banks' growing star power outside of G Unit. His lyrical prowess earned him respect not only from fans, but also from hip-hop veterans who praised his punchline-heavy style. With fame came financial success. Banks invested heavily in real estate, purchasing a lavish penthouse in Manhattan and a sprawling villa overlooking Miami's pristine coastline. His love for luxury cars was evident in his enviable collection, which included a sleek Lamborghini Murcielago, a fully loaded Cadillac Escalade, and a custom-designed Rolls-Royce, all symbols of the wealth he accumulated during his rise to the top. Beyond music sales, Banks' fortune was boosted by lucrative endorsement deals and worldwide tours with G Unit, which dominated charts and stages across the globe. At the peak of his career, he stood among the richest young rappers in the industry, living a life that mirrored the success stories told in his lyrics. Despite challenges and shifts in the music landscape over the years, Lloyd Banks' early impact on hip-hop culture remains undeniable, cementing his status as one of the genre's most respected lyricists and a symbol of G Unit's golden era. Lloyd Banks' rise to fame with G Unit was meteoric, but like many stories of rapid success, it came with challenges that would test his resilience. Following the platinum-selling triumphs of Beg for Mercy and his solo debut The Hunger for More, Banks became one of hip-hop's most promising stars. Yet, as the late 2000s approached, cracks began to form within G Unit. Internal tensions, creative differences, and public disputes gradually weakened the once dominant collective. The rap group that had once been united in its pursuit of success started to fragment, leading to fewer collaborations and a noticeable decline in their cultural dominance. Amid this professional turbulence, Lloyd Banks endured profound personal losses. The passing of his father left a lasting emotional impact, compounded by the deaths of close friends who had been by his side before fame. These tragedies weighed heavily on him, forcing a period of introspection. The flashy lifestyle that had once symbolized his hard-earned success no longer carried the same thrill. Media attention began to fade, and with it, the constant scrutiny that came with being one of rap's brightest young stars. Rather than chase the spotlight, Banks made a deliberate choice to step away from the public eye. Despite his wealth and status, he opted for a more private life, distancing himself from the chaos of the music industry. His penthouse in Manhattan and Miami villa remained, but they became sanctuaries rather than party hubs. His prized car collection, the Lamborghini Murcielago, Cadillac Escalade, and custom Rolls-Royce stayed in his possession. Yet they were rarely flaunted as they once were. The same went for his jewelry, once a visible badge of success, now carefully tucked away from public view. This retreat wasn't a surrender, but a recalibration. Away from constant media buzz, Banks began quietly focusing on personal growth and rediscovering his passion for music. He spent time writing, recording, and planning his eventual return to the rap game on his own terms. Fans who had followed his journey sensed that while the world might not see him as often, his presence was far from gone. Lloyd Banks transformed his life from one of relentless public exposure to a more controlled, private existence, all while preparing for the moment he would remind the hip-hop world why he was once considered one of its sharpest lyricists. After years of relative silence, Lloyd Banks made a highly anticipated return to hip-hop in 2021 with the release of The Course of the Inevitable. The project marked a pivotal moment in his career, proving that despite his time away from the mainstream spotlight, his lyrical sharpness and signature punchline-heavy style had not diminished. Fans and critics alike praised the album for its authenticity and mature tone, showcasing a more reflective and battle-tested version of the rapper, once hailed as the Punchline King. The project reminded the world that true lyricism never fades, and Banks's pen game was as formidable as ever. Unlike the early 2000s, when success was often measured by flashy appearances and chart-topping hits, Banks's focus had shifted. He was no longer chasing radio dominance or high-profile features. Instead, his priorities centered on artistry, independence, and cementing his legacy as one of hip-hop's most respected wordsmiths. Through independent releases, he gained full control over his music, ensuring that every bar and every beat represented his vision without compromise. Selective touring allowed him to connect with loyal fans worldwide, while avoiding the chaotic, fame-driven lifestyle that once defined his earlier years. Off-stage, Lloyd Banks had transformed into a disciplined businessman. His vast wealth from past successes remained intact, reflected in an enviable collection of luxury watches, high-end cars, and custom sneakers. These symbols of his earlier triumphs were still part of his life, but they no longer defined him. Rather than flaunting excess, he showcased balance, a man who had learned the value of privacy, focus, and long-term success. His social media presence shifted accordingly. Gone were the days of constant displays of extravagance. Instead, his platforms offered glimpses into the life of a seasoned artist and entrepreneur. Studio sessions, rare live performances, business ventures, and messages of perseverance for fans. Lloyd Banks had evolved from a young rapper in the G-Unit era to a self-made figure, determined to control his narrative. With The Course of the Inevitable, Banks reclaimed his spot in hip-hop's hierarchy, not through hype, but through skill and authenticity. It marked not just a comeback, but the beginning of a new chapter where his artistry, independence, and legacy mattered more than the fleeting allure of fame. The Punchline King had returned, this time on his own terms. Today, Lloyd Banks stands as a certified hip-hop legend, a man who built his name on bars, not gimmicks. Far removed from the chaotic media spotlight that once surrounded G-Unit, he has crafted a life that values respect, family, and quiet success over public hype. Residing in New York, Banks has invested heavily in real estate, turning his music money into lasting generational wealth. From luxury high-rise apartments to suburban properties, his portfolio reflects a man who learned early on to secure his future beyond rap. But his legacy isn't just about financial wins. Banks dedicates time to mentoring young rappers in Queens, offering guidance on navigating the music industry without losing authenticity. He stresses ownership, independence, and longevity, lessons he learned from both his triumphs and setbacks. While he rarely flaunts his wealth, glimpses of his life show sophistication, private dinners at high-end steakhouses, late-night writing sessions in his home studio, and occasional drives through the city in his matte black Rolls-Royce Wraith. On stage, the magic is still alive. Every performance turns into a time capsule, with fans rapping along, word for word, to his classic punchlines. His shows aren't just concerts, they're proof of an unshakable bond between Banks and his loyal supporters. Lloyd Banks' journey is a testament to resilience. He may not chase headlines, but his presence in hip-hop remains undeniable. In a world obsessed with fame, Banks reminds us that true royalty doesn't need a crown, it just needs respect and a legacy built to last.